They say this is a big rich town. Yeah, I just come from the poorest part. Bright light, city lights, I got
What's up, everybody? It's Monet, and welcome back to my channel. On today's video, we'll be discussing Power Book 2 Ghost, Season 1, Episode 4, The Prince.
Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert.
Alright, let's get right into the episode. We see the episode open up, and Tariq is looking at the app Course Connect. Tariq's phone rings, and it's Monet. She's calling with the rules of their operation. Rule number 1.
Always pay the exact amount discussed.
Rule number 2.
Make sure shit is on time.
And Tariq already knew rule number 3.
Always pay with cash.
After the call is disconnected, we see that Tariq is at Simon Stern's office. We are introduced to Sebastian, which is Simon's husband. Tariq is there telling him about Course Connect and that he is going to be tutoring, but lets him know that he needs all of his payouts from the app in cash. He ends up making a deal with Bash, and he will give him a 5% cut of the profits so that he can keep it a secret from Simon Stern. As Tariq is leaving, Tasha calls him and lets him know that she knows that he's out there selling to pay for David. She tells him he needs to go get a gun. She'll text him a drop spot that Tommy and Ghost used to hide some of their guns and that he can go and find one there.
Class is in session.
Tariq is sitting in class and Professor Reynolds is giving his lecture on Machiavelli when Professor Milgram and Professor Simmons walk in. Professor Milgram announces the Canonical Studies Fellowship that will take place in Washington, D.C. Once Bruchandra heard the word Washington, D.C., she blew Lauren's spot right up.
Don't you got a man that live in D.C.?
Okay, so Lauren got her a man, y'all.
Tariq tries to act all player and cool, and he just like,
Oh yeah, you got a man, baby. Okay.
After class, Lauren approaches Professor Reynolds and asks him what they're looking for in the student for the fellowship. She then invites him out to dinner, and luckily Lauren said that it was going to be at her parents' crib, and he decided to invite Professor Milgram, and then she ends up inviting Tariq as well for optics.
It seems like Tariq ain't the only one who trying to get him a little piece of Lauren, y'all.
Professor Reynolds, you dirty dog.
Meanwhile, Kane and Monet are meeting with Lil Guap, and they are letting him know that they are cutting his supply off. Obviously, Lil Guap ain't with that. Monet tells him that she gonna have him sleeping with the fishes.
Basically.
Lil Guap then calls her a puta, and she steps to him, but then she goes ahead and let Kane whip his ass.
Beat the brakes off that nigga. Shit.
As they're walking off, Monet tries to reiterate the fact to Kane that that's what he's good at. He is definitely the muscle of the family. After class and back at the dorms, Tariq is sitting talking to Brayden, and Brayden is talking about how Scott is looking for him on campus.
So Scott found out that someone else is selling drugs on campus and he wants to know who the competition is because he wants to take them out.
This is real life for Tariq, and for Brayden, this is just a game.
Brandon is actually really lame too, y'all. Like, he is really lame. Clearly, he's only popular because he has money.
So at this time, we get to find out a little bit about Course Connect and how it works.
They will hire actual tutors and people who know how to also sell drugs. They will have courses that you can choose which type of drug that you would like to select, and you know that they want drugs because they will choose the premium package.
During this scene was the first time we got to see a parallel of Tariq's life compared to his father's life. We saw Tariq in the library standing over everything the same way Ghost used to do at the club. Reek heads over to Davis's office and pays him the money that he's hustled up. While Tariq is there, he also questions Davis about what is he using his money for, because from what he's heard,
Davis's case is going down the drain.
Davis obviously doesn't really care where the money's coming from, but Paula does.
Paula got a problem with everything, girl.
Davis then says if he was doing something shady, that their money will be coming from an offshore shady LLC. And he gives Paula the money so she'll shut up. Back at the MCC, Tasha is sitting talking to Layla, the other inmate, and tells her that she feels like the guard is watching her. Layla is basically like, that ain't my problem, and gets up and moves away from her. Then we see Sax and Davis meeting with the judge, and Davis is trying to convince her that Sax has a grudge against the StPatrick family. It doesn't take very many examples for the judge to say,
There is definitely cause for investigation.
she lets Davis know that he can bring his witnesses in, and that if they find out that there is any sort of misconduct, that Sax has a personal agenda he's trying to fix, then he will have to recuse himself. So at this point, it does look like things are looking up for Tasha's case.
Although we know that's not true.
Diana, Drew, and Kane are sitting around talking about the fight that Kane just had with Lil Guap and saying that the family cut GTG completely off. As they're discussing who's gonna pick up the product that ETG will no longer be distributing, Monet walks in. She lets them know that they'll be working with Tariq. She tells Drew that he needs to go to the school and finds out Tariq's operation and wants to be the one to go, and so does Diana, but she doesn't trust either one of them to handle it how she needs them to.
She knows that Diana likes Tariq, and she knows that Kane is too overboard and will not be allowed on anybody's college campus.
She then hops on Diana's case about contacting her dad about going to school and takes her real phone away. She then tells Kane he needs to stay in his lane and play his role. She tells him that she's a decision maker and he's not.
Ain't nobody paying you to think, baby boy.
Next thing you know, Drew is showing up on campus. And right away knew that Monet sent Drew there to spy on him. They arrived to Tariq's art class and he has a very progressive teacher and she allows Drew to join. While Tariq is sitting down, we see Drew snapping pictures of him. Drew partners up with another student in the class. And instantly, you can feel the sparks fly.
I was a little confused about what Drew's story was up until this point. And although they hadn't fully revealed that he was gay, y'all, I could tell just from the way that him and the ball player's eyes connected.
It was damn near love at first sight. Back at Sax's office, we see him on the phone with John Mock, and John actually hangs up on him. Sax is talking to Garza and saying that they need to figure out how Tariq is paying Davis McClean. He says he wants to put a tail on Tariq, and Garza immediately is like,
We're not putting a tail on a minor. I thought you said we were doing everything by the book.
Yes, Garza, get on Sax's ass, keep them motherfuckers in check, okay?
next thing you know, there's a knock at the door. And there's two regular cops there, and they are bringing Sax's niece, Riley. Riley was caught trying to buy over 2 ounces of weed out of Central Park.
Clearly, she is a troublemaker.
Sax threatens to tell her parents, and she promises that she'll do whatever if he keeps this to himself. So then that's when Sax gets a bright idea.
Back at the school, Tariq is peeping game, and he notices that Drew is all caught up in the basketball player, so he sneaks right on out of class.
Back in the judge's office, we now have a Blanca Rodriguez under oath. Davis is asking her questions, and at first it looks like things are going good. Blanca provides the judge with more information and gives her a clearer picture on the type of bullshit Sax is on.
But as we've seen in the past, and as we know, Sax is good for flipping shit around.
Shit don't make no sense. And the judge says that she will be forwarding the tapes to Blanca's boss.
Y'all, I need for Davis to get a win because he is not looking good. Like, he's supposed to be this high-profile lawyer, and he is not, he's not doing his job real good, y'all. I mean, granted, his clients are bad and they be lying and shit, but y'all, Sax keep coming for him. Sax always got something for him.
Sax is looking at this as a win. The judge says,
Oh, no. Calm down. Paula and Tate.
Next, we cut to the person that I love to hate.
Tate. He is sitting talking to John Mock and Steven, and he is basically letting them know that he doesn't want to testify. And Steven told him that they don't give a damn.
Tate's truth is that Ghost was a lying, cheating, conniving son of a bitch, but he obviously can't get on the stand and say that, so they tell him what he needs to say.
Next, we cut to a scene of Tariq sitting in a laundromat, and he is getting the gun that Tasha told him about. While he is getting the gun, Paula calls, and he ignores it. Next, he gets a text from Lauren, letting him know what time dinner starts, and also telling him that her parents are very strict. Almost simultaneously, he gets a call from Brayden, informing him that their product is low. Tariq can't believe it because app is supposed to be a low-key thing, but it is blowing up. Heading back into his dorm, Tariq runs into Paula. She showed up to let him know that they had to subpoena Tate to come testify. She gives him back the cash and lets him know that they have to get their money either from check or wire transfer.
He knows that Paula is on his ass.
He tells her that his grandmother is the only one benefiting from Ghost's will and that he's been stealing the money from her so that he can get his mother out of jail. While he's putting the money in his bag, Paula then sees his gun. His phone begins to ring and he dismisses himself into his room. We see that Bash is calling and saying that their app is blowing up. Tariq then tells him that he needs half of the money through wire transfers and half of the money in cash.
Bash then strong arms him and tells him he'll be needing a 15% cut.
Right now, Tariq has to pay Bash, Brayden is getting his cut, Monet has to get her cut, and David still has to get his money, on top of just being able to make money for himself. Y'all, this boy is getting way over his head, okay?
I think it's crazy the parallel once again of how Ghost had got into bad business with Simon and now Tariq is getting into bad business with Bash.
Woo, yeah.
Across campus somewhere, we see Drew entering the basketball player's dorm room. He asks Drew to draw his neck tattoo and then takes off his shirt.
Got real hot and steamy in there after that, okay?
Clothes was coming off, tongues was down each other's throats, hands was all over bodies.
Y'all, they was getting it cracking.
Woo, get your son, boy! And then Drew's phone rings.
If it's his mama, y'all know he got an answer, so he looks and sees that it's Tariq.
He excuses himself into the bathroom to take the call. Next, we see that Drew is calling Diana and Monet is listening in on speakerphone. He says that Tariq needs more product and he's not with him right now, so he needs her to bring it up to the school. Monet tells Diana to get in and get out and gives her phone back and allows her to go to the school. Then we see Tariq getting a text from Lauren and she's saying that her mother loves flowers. Then there's a knock at Tariq's door and Diana is there with the product. They start flirting and she lets Tariq know that Zeke did tell her that he wanted permission to date her. And she told Tariq,
Monet here.
Tariq and Diana shared their first kiss.
My nigga.
Y'all, it was a real good intimate kiss. The way he was grabbing her face and stuff, like, ooh, baby, okay, my man better kiss me like that.
I'm team Diana too, by the way. Then of course, they groove got messed up.
Now Drew done doing what he doing and wanna come break up the party.
Stop blocking ass nigga.
Back in the judge's office, Tate is lying his ass off. He is such a politician, y'all. He is trying to make it seem like Tasha really is the kingpin. And with his story, he is making it real believable.
I can't believe him, but I can't believe him, because it's Tate.
And I loved when Davis grabs him at the end like,
You's a lying ass nigga.
because you is Tate, you's a lying ass nigga.
Nigga Tate said, ciao.
Drew is back at home taking a shower when Monet comes in to question him. She tries to figure out what he learned that day and he tells her that he didn't find out anything. She concludes that Tariq is being careful and she asks where the money is that Tariq made and she goes in his bag to get it. She then sees the picture that Drew drew while he was in class. And it is a portrait of a man's body. So at this point, we know that the family knows that Drew is gay. She just warns him to be careful and know that he will always come back home. Professor Milgram has now arrived to Lawrence and she is marveling at all of the artwork in the home when she sees Jabari. She wasn't aware that Jabari was gonna be there and she looks
Shook.
Then we see Tariq running down the street trying to get to the flower shop, but they're closed. Then he's at Lauren's house and we find out that he is extremely late.
Per usual.
The vibe at dinner is clearly awkward. Her parents are rude and Jabari talks too much.
Look, he is so irritating, y'all. He gets on my nerves. I cannot stand him. Why you gotta be so fine but so irritating? It's just like...
Tariq seemingly impresses Lauren's parents when he discusses his point of view of the book that they're discussing. And they are once again discussing another book that parallels Tariq's life. Lauren's father then brings up Tasha's case and says that he's been watching it. Then Jabari brings up the fact that Carrie knows Davis McClean.
I wonder if she used to fuck on Davis McClean too, because clearly she has a love and sex addiction, and she loves her some fine ass black men. So girl, I wouldn't even be mad at you, okay? Because that man fine.
Things get a little heated when Lauren's dad asks Professor Reynolds when his second book will be coming out.
Y'all, I live for moments like this. Yes, yes, and yes, sis, Carrie. Get your petty on. She said the second book came and went. Okay, baby, ain't nobody even heard or seen or knew nothing about it. Okay, ain't nobody read that whack ass shit.
Lauren then tries to break the tension and says that they have one of Professor Reynolds' books in the house and that her and Tariq will go look for it. Lauren then talks about her brother's downfall and his spiral out of control with the drugs and how the pressure to be the best and make his parents proud is what caused him to now be in a facility. Tariq vaguely discusses his feelings about his father's death, and Lauren genuinely seems interested in his well-being. Tariq then brings up her boyfriend while they're flirting, and Lauren decides to kiss him.
Y'all, Tariq is getting plenty play this episode, okay? The girls is on his wood.
Their kiss is getting a little heated when the doorbell rings. It is Lauren's boyfriend. Her parents clearly love him, and now the professors love him and are eating out of his hand. And he even thought to bring Lauren's mother some flowers. Tariq is over it and he just sneaks out. After dinner, Carrie and Jabari decided to go back to the office, and I knew that was a bad idea from the get-go.
There's clearly too much tension between them.
She brings up the fact that she knows that he fucked one of his grad students. And this motherfucker had the nerve to say, which one?
I was so mad at her when she threw him down on that couch and started to get it in. I was just hoping that she was gonna throw him down on the couch and then come to her senses and leave him hanging, but no!
stupid bitch. She is really obsessed with this nigga. And part of me feel like he kind of be starting stuff with her just so he can get this reaction from her.
Girl, you know your sponsor told you don't be in no closed rooms with him.
Back on campus, we see Riley, Sax's niece, on the phone with Sax while she is entering Braden's party. Sax tells her whatever she does, do not speak to Tariq. And y'all know what Riley did. She went right up and spoke to Tariq.
Has anybody told you that there is a dark energy surrounding you?
Tariq just walked off and she started talking to Braden. She even hit his wig. While Tariq is walking off, Lauren texts him and tells him that they need to talk. Tariq tells her,
"Ain't nothing to talk about, baby."
Next, we see Tariq instigating a fight between Scott and Braden. We know that Braden can't get in trouble because his last name is Weston, so it seems like Tariq started this fight because he knew that it would get Scott in trouble.
And Braden can actually fight. I'm surprised he got them hands. Usually boys like him, they all talk. Daddy's money fixes all their problems, not them hands. So I was actually really shocked.
Riley seems to be impressed too. Reek is standing over the party just like Ghost used to stand over Truth and is watching everything unfold. Riley takes a pic of this scene and then Braden comes up and asks her if she got everything on camera.
Boy, you was all about the clout.
Then we see Bash drinking a glass of champagne and sending a wire transfer over to Paula.
We see Paula pick up her phone, but she doesn't read the message because she is too busy getting it in with Davis.
Like, Paula, girl, you ain't wrong, because Davis is fine, but girl, what?
You would think that because she getting some that she would not be so uptight. She's the last person I expected to be getting some D.
Davis is cheating on his wife with uptight ass Paula. Y'all, really?
Drop that zero and get with a hero, baby. What? We good.
Then Paula mentions that the money came from Tariq and that it was from a shady LLC, just like Davis said earlier. Davis really doesn't care. He's just worried about as long as it's the right amount. While they're talking, they try to figure out a way to get Sax. So then they come to the conclusion that they need to subpoena Tamika. Davis sends over a bouquet of flowers and serves Tamika the papers to appear in court. The next day in class, Tariq is sitting down and Lauren comes in and sits away from him. Tariq gets up and moves by her, let her know that they're young and they got options. You ain't gotta do all that, baby. Tariq's phone is ringing and it shows that Diana has called him 4 times. And Lauren wants to know who Diana is. And Tariq says,
"Hey, like I just said, baby, I got options."
We cut to a scene of Tasha doing push-ups in jail when her phone rings.
I really think it is so funny how they really having Tasha being accustomed to jail life.
She gets a text and it is a picture of Tariq, the picture that Drew took of him in his art class, letting him know that he's earned another day above ground. Almost simultaneously, Sax also receives a text from Riley and he has received the picture of Tariq standing above the crowd like Ghost. And that is where this episode This episode was explosive. So many moving parts. I cannot wait to see what goes down next week. Speaking of, let's get right into the preview for episode 5, which also happens to be the mid-season finale. The preview opens up with Tasha saying,
"What are you doing today? You know I want to see you on your birthday."
while Tariq is walking outside of the school and we see Kane waiting in the truck for him. And as I expected, this season is all about chess. We see Tariq playing a game of chess and talking to Braden and saying,
Monet is the queen, Kane is the rook, Drew is the knight, and Diana is the bishop. And they're running shit.
Then we see a clip of Monet and Rodriguez looking at each other through the closed door. Then we see Monet sitting down talking to Diana and saying,
"I'm leaning on you now, D. Get Tariq alone and give me some information."
Then we see a party scene and Tariq is walking through the crowd. Then we see Tariq talking to Diana and Lauren walks up and he puts his arm around Lauren and walks away.
Boy, you better not do my girl Diana like that.
Diana is standing there looking salty, as she should. We see a clip of Tasha on the phone in jail saying,
"This is just like your father. I got us now."
we see a clip of Tariq outside in what looks like an alley holding his head all distressed.
Probably because you're trying to be a player.
Then we see a clip of Sax in the car talking to Tariq.
Sax, what the hell you got to say? Oh, punk ass.
Then we see Davis talking to Tasha, and then we see another clip of Kane looking out of his truck. Then we see Davis showing up to what looks like Tamika's house and inviting himself in and saying,
I know y'all are up to something, huh?
And it looks like it might be somebody else in the house that he's talking to.
Then we hear Sack say,
I can shut down the whole defense.
and then they have the words pop up on the screen.
You won't believe what's coming.
Then we see a shot of Tasha sitting up in her cell looking worried. We see a shot of Monet looking at someone. And we see a shot of Tariq looking in the mirror.
Y'all, it is about to get crazy. And knowing that this is the mid-season finale, I know that they about to do some crazy stuff that's about to leave us on the edges of our seats.
What did you think about this week's episode of Power Book 2 Ghost? Let me know in the comments down below. And before you go, make sure you check out one of these other videos on my channel. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe down below. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
It goes down. Yeah, I just happened to come apart. Legal, baby, I gotta make it.